this year, I came to the table and I said, the orchestra could do West Side Story. Normally I would say, nope, it's way too hard, I don't want to like try to get everyone to do that, but I went, this year we have the kids on the parts that could make West Side Story be awesome. And they all said no. And we came back to it a couple times more and I said, if we're gonna do it, this would be the time to do it. But eventually we looked at some other things and we ended up saying West Side Story, and I was incredibly happy. I got the score to West Side Story around the 4th of July. It's like about 35 pounds of like music, and it was huge, and I spent the summer studying it, doing it, and I got some of the music to the kids in the jazz band the first month of school, and we used jazz band class to learn some of the harder, more complicated things. And then right before Thanksgiving, the rest of the orchestra, we added the bassoons and flutes and clarinets to fill it out. And we got together once a week for 3 hours or so before Christmas and learned a bunch of it. And then once Christmas was over, we were back. Actually, we got together about 3 times over Christmas break to practice for 3 hours each time. And then we, just started putting it together with the cast and made it all happen.
My name is Emma Lamar, and I was in the production of West Side Story. I was in the orchestra, and I was in the cast. West Side Story is one of my favorite musicals all time. I love the storyline. I think it's beautiful. The music is incredible. And when I heard that there was a dancing position in it, I was like, oh man, I gotta jump on this, because every year I've been in the orchestra and I love it. It's so much fun. But I've always wanted to be on stage because my best friend Lauren, she's in theater and she's always on stage and she just loves it. And I wanted to do it so bad, but I've always been so scared of the audition process. The story, it really meant a lot to me because it's so, it still happens today, and it's ridiculous. And I actually, my cousin, it happened to him. He did pass away because of the whole race thing, and it was really unfortunate, and I do miss him a lot, and it's really is amazing, and it's just, this whole story just brought all these memories back of him, and he's just really, really nice. It's great.
One of my favorite lines in the show is when Doc says to Action, what does it take to get through to you? You make this world a horrible place. And Action's response is, that's the way we found it, Doc. And that line, I think, wraps up everything we kind of were thinking about with this show, with the issues and the racism that we dealt with when putting this show together.
I was not in favor of West Side Story as our production this year. Going into the planning process, the choir director and the choir directors and the band director, orchestra conductor were really excited about West Side Story. I had my heart set on a different musical, but the funny thing is, West Side Story has always been one of my favorite musicals, and I've always wanted to direct it. But I was feeling hesitant because of everything happening in the news, in the world, all the challenges that my students are going through. I felt like I couldn't spend 3 months talking about gangs and doing insults and going through the process that we would have to go through to be there in a raw, real way. I didn't know if I was ready to approach all of that. Well, I was very wrong. I trusted the musicians and got on board with them because it's what everybody wanted, and it was the right choice. And I knew it was the right choice. I just didn't want to go through that process. Funny, I'm so glad we went through the process. It's exactly what we needed as a school. It's exactly what we needed to send people out thinking about what they saw and how we can improve our world. So the process started with making the decision to do that musical. Then we get conceptual, and we get colorful, and we get abstract and realistic, and we try to put all these ideas together until we find what our story is going to be. And ultimately, we knew that we wanted to put the story in 1957 because that is when being a Puerto Rican in America was held the greatest threat for our world. And and was very dangerous for our Puerto Rican friends who moved over to America. And although we have all of these other nationalities immigrating from so many different countries, we have the New Yorkers and we have the Puerto Ricans, and we felt like in 1957 it all started to change just a little bit. We set our show in the summer of 1957 because in 1958 in April there was a big parade to welcome and embrace Puerto Rican families in America. And I wanted our story, Tony's story, his death, to be the legacy that made that change. So in our fictitious story, that parade was because Tony died and lives were changed because of it.